disrupt such unity of Indians, Britishers, they founded the INC, Indian National Congress. Indian National Congress. Britishers, they disrupt the unity of Indians, and they try to solve the problems arise among the Indians through the political representation. For this, they founded the Indian National Congress in 1885. 1885 by A.O. Hume. A.O. Hume. It was one of the British official which helped for the formation of Indian National Congress in 1885 at Bombay. 1885 at Bombay. So at that time, at the formation of the Congress, it was headed by the first president of a Congress. It was the Dadabhai Naroji, and the other dignitaries at that time in Congress. There were the 72 members were there, in which the important dignitaries like as a Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tayyabji, W.C. Banerjee, Surendra Nath Banerjee, Ramesh Chandra Dutt, and S. Subramaniam Iyer, etc. So such kind of dignitaries, they took part. Actually, these were the publicists. All these were the publicists which raising the issues related with the people. Where the people, these were the dissatisfied of British policies, they raising the such issues, and Britishers, they tried to giving them the way to take part in a politics, not to arising the such issues in a publicly. That's why the Indian National Congress founded by the Britishers in 1885 at Bombay by the A.O. Hume. A.O. Hume. A.O. Hume. So the Congress at that time, in the beginning, the Congress was dominated by a group of leaders called the moderates. All were the moderates. It's a time when the Congress not split. All were following the ideology of moderates. They believed that the British respected the ideals of freedom and justice, and would therefore accept the just demands of Indians. This was the reason which makes as the aggression among some of the leaders of Congress. That's why around 1890s, finally Congress split into the two parts. One group, it was as a moderates, and the second group, it was the radicals. Radicals, those who opposed the British policies. These were the part of the Congress party, but one group favored that the British administration is favorable for the country, but another group, there were the group of the people were there in Congress which strongly opposed the British administration in India. British administration, their policies in India. That group was the radicals, in which in radicals there were the three important leaders were there which raising their voice. One was as the Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. In social studies, their combined name is called as a Lal Bal Pal. But let's move towards some moderates first. So moderates, those who believe that the British respected the ideals of freedom and justice in India. Freedom and justice in India. They sought gradual reforms and not independence from British rule. They favored that the British rule, it should be as continued for the upcoming years. This was the ideology of moderates. They wanted the British to train Indians in the art of self-government. To voice their demands, they adopted peaceful and constitutional methods and pressed for changes through petitions. They filed the problems, what the problems faced by the people, and such problems they sorted out through the help of British officials. British officials, they supported them to solve their issues. They also tried to mobilize public opinion through speeches and writings critical of British economic policies. British economic policies. So, what were the demands? What were the demands of the moderates? Moderates, they were having as a some certain group of the demands. What were the demands? What were the demands of the moderates in Indian National Congress? First, greater voice for Indians in the government, greater voice for Indians in the government, for Indians in the government, and in administration, at that time Britishers not allowed to conduct the elections whole of the country. There were a limited number of the constituencies were there, areas were there where the elections were held. On such elections, Congress took part. Congress is taking part in as the candidates to their candidates in elections. Whole of the country, it was not allowed to conduct the elections. Second demand was reforms to make the legislative reforms to make the legislative councils more representatives. At that time, a limited number of the constituencies were there, but their demand to increase the number of the constituencies to which the representation it can be the possible. Next, third, greater freedom of speech and expression. Greater freedom of speech and expression. This was also as a demand of moderates. Speech and expression. Speech and expression. Fourth one, repeal the Arms Act. Repeal of Arms Act. Repeal of Arms Act. Next one, reduction in expenditure. Reduction in military expenditure. At that time, British government, it was spending the lots of money to maintain the army. Such money, it should be used for the growth of infrastructure, to provide the irrigation facilities to the farmers. These were the demands of moderates. But Britishers, they were not allowed all these demands. There were some other economic demands of moderates were there. These were of the political demands, economic demands, like as a reduction of a revenue, more funds for the irrigation, more funds for irrigation, more funds for irrigation. These were also the demands of a Congress, but Britishers, they were not allowed. They were not confirm all these demands. That's why the moderates, one group of a people, these were the separated from the Congress and became as the radicals. They became as radicals. Congress demanding the such issues, but at the end, Britishers, they were not followed all these demands, not complete all these demands, and some of the individuals, some people from the Congress, they separated. They were the part of the Congress, but because of their ideologies, they were different from the moderates. They became as radicals. They became as radicals. They became as radicals. They became as the radicals. Moderates includes all those which were at the time of the formation of a Congress, these were present. All these were the moderates. Dadabhai Naroji, Surendranath Banerjee, all these were the moderates. But these three which are appear on your screen, these were the radicals. Radicals. So one group, those people, those members of a Congress which oppose British Empire are not satisfied with moderates. The methods of the moderates were called, so that group of a Congress which was not satisfied, which was dissatisfied of methods of moderates, that group was known as the radicals. That group of a Congress, it was known as radicals. The Indian Council Act of 1892, Indian Council Act of 1892 failed to include Indians in the administration of the country. Failed to include Indians in administration of our country. Administration of our country. That's why some members, group of members, they separated from Congress and became as the radicals. They became as the radicals. Such leaders were Bipin Chandrapal. Combinedly, all these three are called as a Lal Bal Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Pal, Bipin Chandrapal. And Aurobindo Ghosh, another radical. Aurobindo Ghosh wanted greater political concessions in legislative elections, and felt that Indians had to achieve these aims by themselves. They adopted more radical ways of political agitation and told the people to be bold, brave, and patriotic. Fight for Swaraj, independence. They fight for Swaraj, means independence. Swaraj or freedom. Tilak raised the slogan of Bal Gangadhar Tilak raised the slogan of Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. This was a slogan given by the Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So all these leaders were known as the radicals, which opposed the policies of moderates and not satisfied with British administration in India. British administration in India. At that time, India, it constitutes the total 562 princely states. 562 princely states were there. These areas were included, these were the part of the existing India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. All these three countries in a present at that time in our past, these were the combinedly present in the form of a 562 princely states, in which the Bengal province, it was the largest. Bengal, it was the largest province of India. Total 562 states were there, princely states. And when when Britishers, they left the country, they were not given the power to any of a state, not include any of a state under the Indian dominance or either the Pakistan's dominance. They given the freedom to all the 562 states. It was a concern of these states to be the part of India or to be the part of the Pakistan. That's why in India, key role played by the Iron Man of India, Vallabhbhai Patel, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. It contributed very important role for the making of a modern map of India. So let's come towards again, moderates and radicals. Radicals, those which were opposed, strictly opposed and not satisfied with the British policies of administration, and finally they split from the moderates. They split from the moderates. Clear? In 1905, Britishers partitioned Bengal. 1905, Bengal partition. Bengal, which was the largest province, it was partitioned by the Britishers. So what were the reasons responsible for the partition of a Bengal? What were the reasons responsible for partition of Bengal? Partition of Bengal by the Britishers. First reason, it was the largest province of colonial India. Colonial India, where administration was not easy to maintain. Administration, it can't be possible on a Bengal as easily. That's why for their convenience, Britishers Viceroy Curzon partitioned the Bengal. Curzon partitioned Bengal into two parts. Bengal partitioned at that time. First reason. Second reason, to disrupt Hindu-Muslim unity. Hindu-Muslim unity. So Britishers divide and rule policy. Under this, they try to disrupt the unity among the Hindus and the Muslims. It can be only possible through the division of a Bengal into the smaller provinces. This was the second reason responsible for this. Third one, to weaken feelings of nationalism. To weaken feeling of nationalism. Feeling of nationalism. Feeling of nationalism. Fourth one, to reduce impact of INC, Indian National Congress, the leaders, because at that time the maximum number of leaders in Indian National Congress belonged from the Bengal province. To reduce impact of Indian National Congress among people, for this Bengal, it was partitioned finally in 1905 by the Viceroy Curzon. Lord Curzon divided the Bengal into the such parts. So what results the partition of Bengal? All sections of Congress, the moderates and the radicals, they started to oppose the administration, British policies. Earlier, the radicals which were only opposed, now the moderates, they were also supported. They were also supported to the radicals and strictly opposed this act of Britishers. This act of Britishers in which Lord Curzon divided the Bengal into two parts. Second, large public meetings and demonstrations were held to protest the part. Third one, movement started in Bengal and other parts of India also. And fourth one, Swadeshi movement in Bengal and Vande Mataram movement in a deltaic coastal parts of Andhra Pradesh, it began. At that time, moderates and radicals, they followed the two methods. So next question arises there. What were the methods opted by the radicals and the moderates to oppose the Britishers? There were the two methods were there, Swadeshi and boycott. Swadeshi and boycott. Methods opted by the moderates and the radicals, these were two. Swadeshi means to favor the goods produced by the Indians. To favor the goods produced by Indians, and boycott foreign goods. Refusal to use the British policies, their goods, items, materials, everything, whatever which has given by the Britishers, it should be as opposed as strictly in society. So these two methods opted by the moderates and radicals to increase the feeling of nationalism among the Indians. So Swadeshi and boycott were among the new methods adopted by the leaders and people to protest against the partition of Bengal. The Swadeshi movement encouraged people to use things made in India as against those which had been produced abroad. Boycott meant that Indians were discouraged from buying goods which were manufactured in England, so that British industries would have no market in India. Bonfires were made of British-made goods and shopkeepers were encouraged to keep Indian goods and instead of British goods. In many places, British schools, colleges and universities, they were also boycotted. Students left the schools and they took part in a mass agitation organized by moderates and radicals. On such movements, in publicly, large section of our students from colleges and schools, they started to taking part in all such movements which continued, which started by the moderates and radicals by supporting these two methods, Swadeshi and boycott. At the At the Surat session of the Indian National Congress held in 1907, a split occurred between the moderates and the radicals. They came together again at the Lucknow session of 1960. Note down this. Moderates and radicals, which were split in 1890. Moderates, radicals, they split into two parts in a Congress in 1890. They again reunite on a common ideal in 1916. At that time, the Congress, it held their session in Lucknow, 1916. 1916, in Lucknow session of a Congress, all the leaders of a moderates and radicals, they reunite. And it was a time when Mahatma Gandhi returned back to India. Gandhi returned back to India in 1915. It started to observe the condition of Indians. Afterwards, it started the first satyagraha, the first movement began by the Gandhi in 1916. Okay. Next one, in 1906, Muslim League formed. Muslim League. In Congress, the maximum number of Hindus were there, but the Muslims were also there. But one group of people in a Muslim community was there, which started to raising their issues in publicly through the Muslim League, separate party, separate organization formed by the Muslims, is known as a Muslim League in 1906. In 1906, Muslim League founded. It formed by the Muslims, a group of Muslim landlords and Nawabs under the leadership of Salimullah Khan. The Nawab of Dhaka, presently it is known as Dhaka in Bangladesh. At that time, it was a part of India. Nawab of Dhaka or Dhaka formed the All India Muslim League at Dhaka in 1906. The leaders of the Muslim League felt that Muslims might not be adequately represented in the government. They supported the partition of Bengal and later appealed to the Viceroy Lord Minto appealed to the Lord Minto, M-I-N-T-O, Lord Minto, for separate electorates, for separate constituencies in which the Muslim candidates, they can only contest in elections. Separate electorates. Salimullah, under the leadership of Salimullah Khan, Muslim League raised the issue and present an issue in front of Lord Minto, Morley Minto. Their complete name, it was a Morley Minto. Minto is also sufficient, M-I-N-T-O, Minto, to given as the separate electorates to Muslims, in which the Muslim voters would elect only the Muslims, not given the opportunities to the Hindus. That was a demand raised by the Muslim League, and that's why they favored as partition of Bengal done by the Britishers. The British used the disunity to the advantage. Tilak and many other radical leaders were arrested and imprisoned. Various restrictions were imposed on the press. Public meetings were banned. This was a role of a Muslim League at their foundation. Until the independence of India, it actively took part in a different number of the movements started by the Mahatma Gandhi and their supporters. Mahatma Gandhi and their supporters. For example, in 1920, when the non-cooperation movement started by the Mahatma Gandhi, for their support, for their support, Muslims, they also started the Khilafat movement in 1921. Khilafat movement in 1921. But their demand, it was as a different, because in 1921, Britishers insulted their caliph of a Turkey, the religious saint of a Turkey, which was having as a prestigious position in Muslims. That's why Muslims, they started Khilafat movement against of it. The important leader of a Muslim League at the time of independence, it playing a role for the formation of a Pakistan. Its name, it was as a Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It was also as a member of a Muslim League. Muslim League. Get it? Now the next topic is a revolutionary nationalism. There were the two only groups in a Congress as moderates and the radicals, but one another group, it was also present in a society which also worked for the independence of our country. This was a revolutionary nationalism. Ram Prasad Bismil, through their writings, it inspired people to sacrifice themselves, to present themselves for the freedom of the country. Freedom of the country. Freedom of the country. Many people associated with the national movement wanted to go a step further and advocated the use of violence to overthrow the British. They founded many secret societies. The most famous among them were the Abhinav Bharat Society. Abhinav Bharat Society. Bharat Society. Abhinav Bharat Society in Maharashtra. In which the important leaders were V.D. Savarkar, Ajit Singh, Madam Bhikaji Kama, Lala Hardayal. These were the important dignitaries which took part in a role of revolutionaries. Ram Prasad Bismil, the other names are Ashfaqullah Khan, Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh. All these were the revolutionaries which opted a way of a violence to free country from British control. Some of the revolutionaries even started organizations outside the India, like Gadar Party. Gadar Party operated mostly in Canada and the United States of America. It spent arms and ammunition to revolutionaries in India. It also planned a revolution in India, but their leaders were arrested and jailed by Britishers. Their important leaders of our revolutionaries were arrested and imprisoned by the Britishers to disrupt their activities, revolutionary activities. This much for today.